and welcome to the Futureprint Leaders Summit. Very happy to be joined by the guys from Webmart UK. We have Chief Executive Simon BILTCLIFFE, Managing Director Richard BOON, and Head of Sales and Marketing Tom MASKILL. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. I think one of the things that we wanted to make sure we discuss is that idea of a multi-generational business, which is what Webmart is. Anyone that knows anything about Webmart knows that it's an interesting business. I would say kind of ahead of the curve in terms of future of work, with other people kind of catching up at the moment with, all the changes that COVID has brought. So on that, what kind of advantages does, that offer this multi-generational business, having that insight across a range of ages? Maybe if we start with you, Simon.
Oh, well, to be honest, it's always been part of what we do was trying to be as inclusive as possible all the way through. And so, if you spot talent, you try and accelerate its path to attainment and give it a facility to be the best it can be as quickly as possible. And you've got two examples here, depending on where you are on the screen, who are there who will explain that. But also, I think, if you're looking at the kind of COVID thing and just giving flexibility for the people to have that work-life balance has always been a big part of what we do. So working from home wasn't an issue, and giving people the ability to be flexible wasn't an issue. Think these big challenges that have come with COVID and whatever, we kind of taken it in our stride because we were there already. Sustainability has been a massive part of what we were doing. Talent management, whole life approach to people rather than just the performance bit that you manage in a business. So in many respects, it has accentuated what we were doing, and others are now having to learn. And it's quite a change. I was talking to people in other areas, big companies and small companies, they're expecting a seismic change in their organization. And we're not, to be brutally honest. So, that's that. I suppose that you do the right thing for the right reasons for everybody's gain. And actually, it kind of works, it future-proofs your organization.
Yeah. And I think, one of the interesting things there is, with younger generations, it's not just, clocking in and clocking out. Younger people want to work with companies that share their values or promote, like you said, a good work-life balance. Do you think that's kind of key to attracting, younger people to businesses and to the industry as well? That's something that print struggles with, I would say.
I think I'll strongly defer that to the other two.
Well, okay, I'll move on to Richard. Really interesting story of your kind of career with Webmart. You came into the business, very young, and have stayed there and moved up the ranks. Maybe we could talk a little bit about, your view on what made you stick around. I don't know many people that have stayed where they started in the world of work. So yeah, could we get your insight on that?
Yeah, sure. So, my background, I'd met Simon during a young entrepreneurial pitch scenario when I was about 17 or 18 and was considering university at the time. And, Simon offered me a compelling chance, really, to go around every single department in Webmart instead of going for a university degree like everybody else that I knew. So my career got kick-started in a very different way. And I think after kind of 6 months, I got around 3 different departments and very quickly found my home. And I think, at school, I don't think I had the direction that I needed out of university. I was doing it because it felt like everyone else was doing it, but I hadn't found what my passion was. And sort of being able to do that around a company, not only did it ground me and give me a lot of lessons there, it kind of gave me what my future career was. And I think, I'm just starting my 15th year at Webmart, and took over as managing director just in time for the pandemic, actually, which was good foresight on Simon's part. And kind of going in as managing director at 31, it was, it paid off that, to stay with the company. There's been many, I'm sure, examples of people in my generation that utilize sort of bouncing between different companies to get promoted. And I think one thing that Webmart's done particularly well has been sort of the nurturing of talent and providing opportunities for me to progress, but also for me challenging the business to create progression as well. So I think that's worked quite well to keep me in the business, 15 years, and it keeps presenting new challenges, and that keeps me excited, keeps me interested. And I hope that I'm, able to do the same thing within the business with the people that we've got, namely Tom, who's down there on my screen, but he might be over there, and providing fresh challenges for other people to develop their career within the business, and as the business evolves, offer new challenges to keep people interested.
Yeah, really interesting, because I think it's often, I think it's baffling, the university path that you kind of feel like you say that other people are doing it. It might not be. It's definitely not something that's right for everybody and right for every career. So really interesting to get that kind of in-house experience. You might spend a few years training for something, and then the actual environment isn't right for you at all. So great to get that in-house experience. Tom, we've just been talking about you there and giving you the opportunities. I know as well, I believe that you were first kind of mentored a young, well, you're very young now, but from a teenager, with Simon, and now here you are, head of sales and marketing at Webmart UK at 23 years old, I believe, 23. Yes. Yeah, so an incredible journey. Maybe you could talk a little bit about your experience there.
Yeah, sure. I first met Simon when I was about 15, and I was like Rich. I was in a local business competition. I was in the local paper, the Barnsley Chronicle, and Simon spotted me in that and emailed me saying, "I want to meet you." As a 15-year-old, my parents were slightly concerned as to what that was all about, but anyway. I
did do it through the school for the avoidance of doubt.
My dad, some bloke wants to meet me, see me in the paper. Yeah, but, and yeah, so I was trying to run little businesses and projects throughout being a teenager, and also while I was at university, did bits and bobs for Webmart, contracting, bits, odds and sods. And Simon obviously advising on me on the various projects that I was working on. And then when I finished university, Simon offered me a job. And I guess to come and kind of echo what Rich was saying there, and what you were saying actually, is obviously a work-life balance and flexibility to work from home is really, really important. But I'd also say that flexibility and progression is really important as well. So when Simon first offered me a job at Webmart, it wasn't, we want you to come and do this. It was, we want you at Webmart. What do you want to do? Where could you add the most value? Which for me was on the sales and marketing side. But you can see it throughout the whole business. Like when Rich first started, I think it was in IT. Our head of finance started out in telemarketing. I've got my marketing team. One of them started out in project management. Sales team, the other one started in account management. So often when people are starting out in their careers, they haven't a clue what they would like to do or what they're particularly good at. So as an organization, having the flexibility to find the right people first and then the right position for them second, I think is really important.
Yeah. And it's a really interesting approach, because I think, how many people must get a job because that's the job going, in their area that they're slightly interested in. And then, you move to another company doing the same thing. And then, you're years down the line thinking, oh, actually, this wasn't what I had in mind at all for my career. So to have that, that option to move around is really, really interesting.
I think that's the key thing, is understanding the person and then fitting a role that makes the best of that person's natural ability. And it will evolve over time. There'll be certain areas that you tend to enjoy more because you're good at, and then so you flex the career path to the individual. And it's an evolution. It's it constantly evolves, but having that flexibility to understand it's the person that you want in the business. People always say people are the most important thing in business, but then their if you like, their talent management doesn't reflect that. It kind of silos you into a route, and you generally go more senior in that route, and it may not be always the best use of that person's talent. And having that flexibility and talent spotting early and giving that opportunity, whether they go to university or not, it's really important to give. To attract to, in the printing industry, as we were, and we're now integrated marketing solutions provider. We've evolved massively, under Richard's guidance in the last 12 months. It's developed much faster than it would have otherwise done. And you've got to, as if you like, the founder, you've got to realize that you don't know best. It's the aggregation of the team that you have, and the market evolves. And the tragedy of many people who've been there since the beginning is, if you don't understand that you have a degree of a shelf life, and you've got to empower people to come up and sit back and give them their opportunity, you will stifle your company. And what you end up finding is most companies don't atrophy strategically because of the fact that those at the top, in inverted commas, don't actually read the runes as well as the people that you're serving. And if you look at the archetype of our customer base, that's a good starting point for the kind of talent that you need to have towards the top of the businesses. In marketing, there aren't too many 55-year-old white blokes that are just leading the charge in these things. And so you need to get a better fit with your customer base, the same terminology that they're using, and then flex the product and service lines that you offer to match what your customers need rather than what you do as a company. And that's that. So at an individual level, you're hearing the kind of case studies of how we flex, to keep and retain and develop talent. We as an organization have to do the very same thing to become increasingly and ever more relevant to our customers.
And I think that's something, perhaps that print businesses, sometimes struggle with. It's that holding on of how things have always been done. And really, it's about marketing. It's about integration. It's about how does print work with, all these other digital marketing and other solutions. Those aren't going away. So, you can bang on about how great print is till the cows come home, but it's, there needs to be that level of integration. And I think, it's a business, it's something that you're at the fore of, definitely. And I think Richard, just, as Simon alluded to there, you've had your strategic shift in mind and being implemented. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about that and what it means for the business and for your customers.
Yeah, sure. So the journey we've been on for a number of years, like any business that's been born out of the print industry, is evolution and adapting. And I think that I had my eyes on sort of an integrated marketing solutions agency. It was kind of where we wanted to go, but obviously born out of the physical marketing that we've always traditionally done in the business, and continues to. The recipe we've put in place there makes it relevant for the marketeer and the customer that exists today. And I think that's been a massive undertaking by the business over a number of years that's kind of matured now and delivers a compelling solution for the customers that require those kind of services. But I think trying to build a business that is relevant, that can have a conversation on both sides of the fence, means a degree of understanding and skills within the business to make sure that, like you say, you can't always talk about just one side of the coin without having any other understanding of the digital side of things. And I think, the mixture of skills and talent that we've got in the business allows us to consult across both sides. It allows fresh ideas and an appreciation of both sides. It's not a case of maybe the narrative in the industry has been very much, email versus direct mail. It's very much versus. It's like this kind of street fighter, get in a ring and fight each other kind of thing. But when you're a marketeer and you have an appreciation of, the challenges marketeers face, it's very much about a collaboration and a single workflow where both physical and digital combined has a better impact on their goals. It's not a case of putting your pound coins in one side of the budget versus the other. It's how can you make the most out of one, maybe empowering the other. How does the physical marketing drive a better online return rather than let's put our money all in one basket versus the other. So I think that mindset change has been quite a significant one for certainly, some of the ways that we, some of the processes and some of the people that we have in the business. But I think having that blend of fresh younger talent with no preconceptions, I think is probably the best way to put it, that challenge upwards as well as us, from a senior level, challenging downwards with experience and wisdom, from avoiding us making mistakes that we might have made in the past. I think that combination means that you overcome, preconceptions of the past with new ideas, and you welcome them, and you give it a second chance. And like Simon said, I think the ability over the last year in particular for me to probably, to Simon's frustration, maybe challenge some of the ways we've done it. Said, I know maybe if we've tried this before, but that doesn't mean it won't work again if we try it a different way. And so, that sort of Simon doing the sort of talent spotting, me doing the talent management and people development piece to overcome those challenges with people, combined with people like Tom, working with new skills within the business, newfound skills, means that we get the combination of all three working in harmony. But yeah, it is a case of being open to challenge, at my level, at Simon's level, and at Tom's level.
Yeah, and it's interesting, it's like you say that, the no preconceptions. I think, people that have been in print specifically for a long time, and have watched certain areas of it dwindle. It's kind of more of isn't that a shame, instead of looking at the ways that it's evolving. And I think Tom, as a young person, you've grown up, your age group is, the true digital natives that have grown up, with digital. You've come up and like you said, you come into it with a completely different viewpoint. Do you see things that way, that you kind of maybe view things differently than those older than you within the business and the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's probably two sides to it. There's like your the base knowledge that you have varies massively between generations, I think, because of what you've grown up with. So it's like things that I would take for granted in, mostly the tech things, other people won't. Equally, the nuances within the print industry, I have no idea about, but they do. So it's very much learning from each other. And then it's kind of on your point there, if you're fresh into the industry, you're unencumbered with those preconceived limitations of what can and can't be done. And it's like that thing where you say, like, kids always come up with the best inventions because they haven't got any preconceived idea of any limitations across anything. So you've got rockets and robots and all these kind of cool things that more older, experienced people, as soon as an idea like that pops into your head, you've got 10 reasons why it can't happen. But it's almost like a naivety in the field. You can still have those ideas and innovations. And if you're comfortable in the business that you're in, to bring them to the wider team and the more experienced people to implement, that's how you get true novel innovation. And some of the things that we're working on now that will be launching in the next year or so have come out of that exact process. Wouldn't it be amazing if this could happen? Here's a list of 100 reasons why not, but let's try and find a way and build a way so that we can do this thing. And that's where having the multi-generational aspect really helps, because you've got the experience in delivery and implementation, and the kind of youth and energy for the ideas and the innovations.
Fantastic. And Simon, do you kind of, is that your thinking behind, you particularly with Tom and Richard, you spot these younger people with an entrepreneurial spirit, or something that's, you recognize the talent and you want to foster that talent and nurture it, and ultimately it helps your business. Is that something that comes into it?
I think that's crucial. I mean, that is my role effectively now. If you cut, yes, you use your experience. What you don't do is limit yourself by the prior art that you've known. And, if we hadn't evolved significantly in many different ways over many different years, we would have been bust a long time ago. I mean, the name Webmart came from web offset marketplace, and 15 years ago, 90% plus% of our turnover was in large volume web offset gravure and things like that. You ideally want to be just ahead of the curve. So thought leadership in which we've done in many ways. Some of it works because we've got it just right timing wise. Some of it has failed because we were too far ahead of the curve. And, there's some great ideas that 10 years ago where we could absolutely see this was what we should be doing. However, the market wasn't ready for it. And, some of the stuff that Tom alluded to that we're bringing to market now, some of it is brand new and novel, and it's aggregation of things that weren't possible 10 years ago. But some of it will be enabled by technology and by changes in the marketplace that we saw 10 years ago, but the market wasn't ready for it. And now the market is ready for it. And so, they always say it's as bad to be too far ahead of the curve as it is behind. I would say that's nonsense, to be honest. If you're behind, you can never catch up. Whereas if you're ahead, you can always slow it down until the time comes. So it is fit for purpose in the marketplace, and the market's receptive of it. But that flexibility and that open-mindedness, it doesn't matter what age you are. You can be young-brained or old-brained. And young-brained are people who are curious and who experiment and are avid for new ideas and new concepts, irrespective of your the years that you've been on this planet. You can still be, I know some very innovative 80-year-olds who are still really kind of interested in everything. And it's getting that relevance across the demographic for the marketplace is really important. And using the wisdom that you've had from the previous experiences and the previous art that you had, but not being limited by that. Not just saying, because it didn't work then, it can't work then. And things that, go back to what BOON said, sometimes, it hasn't worked out before, but if you revisit it in a slightly different way at a different moment in time, then you can hit it. And most of these great world-class ideas take a long time to come to market. It seems like it's a bam and it's taking the market on. But actually, if you look at the prior art and the failure before it, there's actually a lot of iterations that you have to go through to get to that moment in time with the right product and service. And having an organizational ability and capability to adapt and morph for that, but building on the heritage that you've got and the technology and the skill set of your business, and crucially listening to the marketplace and listening to what it is that we can add unique value becomes out of that. And that's where I think if you've got a resonance across many different categories, many different markets, and also on an interpersonal level with many different people on a peer-to-peer level, then all of a sudden you get insight really quickly, and you can turn that idea into action, into product and service line quite really quickly. And that's where the difference between an okay company and a good company and a great company is identifying that and then turning it into a product and service that you can market really, really quickly. That speed, that pace, that cadence, that momentum, whatever you want to call it within your business is crucial. And that's where having an adaptable and fluid organization that wraps itself around people and wraps itself around its customers and its supply chain to understand the unique elements of that we can bring to add value to each. That's what we've been very good at. And the two guys here are just examples of that on an individual level, but they are doing the same to their team, and we are doing the same to our customers, and we're rapidly iterating with them as to the bespoke solutions that we can come up with, building on the aggregate knowledge, technology, and service lines that we offer to them now.
Yeah, and it's staying with that in terms of the people within the business, and that it's quite a for lack of a better term, it's a big ask, isn't it, from people to have this vision that your company has. It's a big vision to be, making sure you're ahead of the curve, making sure that you're listening and your eyes on the on where things are going next. And Richard, you're the managing director now. What's your kind of leadership style in terms of making sure that's something that trickles down throughout the whole business and everybody's kind of got that Webmart mentality?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, really. I mean, trying to sum up a leadership style that is so all-encompassing across so many different areas, I think you could bring it down to some sort of key qualities. So, the empathy of understanding from different generations and diversity has been a big way of playing people to their strengths. My management team spans from 20-year-olds to 60-year-olds. It's a very diverse team. There's completely different ideas, as we've said before, bouncing between them. I think everyone's very open to the change. I think obviously, I've had to prove a number of things to gain the credibility, and I think doing that before moving into managing director helps. Then there's a degree of putting ideas and challenges on the line and saying, okay, I'll take accountability for this. This is what we're going to achieve. And maybe, during a pandemic, everyone's, I always feel like during the pandemic, it was almost like the Maslow hierarchy of needs just completely got blown up. Everyone was kind of, am I going to provide food for my family, finance, all this kind of stuff. So I guess when you've got very vulnerable people, it's allowing them to feel vulnerable and talking about fears and objections, working through them with people. So it's been a very hands-on, very heavy, people-heavy approach for the last probably the first 9 months of what's happened, and it's just clicked. And I think everyone feeling comfortable with their peers, especially digitally as well, when we're not in the same room. I've done this, it feels like I've been playing Football Manager with a business for 10 months now, playing a video game, managing a business, because I haven't been able to see anyone. And my strength is people to people. So it's taken away my natural born ability to kind of work with people in a room. And we've had to find other ways to adapt. And I think, working with the team, I've had to be extremely adaptable based on my style, based on the teams, and then the challenges within those teams. I've taken over 3-4 other departments that I've worked with in my time at Webmart, but haven't had direct involvement with. So I've had to have a degree of appreciation and understanding for their challenges. What are their goals? Where do they want to go? Does it align with the business? How can I work with them to align what's important, what matters to that vision? Simon was talking about that big ask. Our vision is this is what you're working on. How does that break down in your area to something you can deliver every day, every week, every month, to migrate your department in line with where the business is going? And I feel like I've had great success in doing that. I think the numbers, paint one picture. I think we've been very successful to turn a business around in a very challenging environment, as well as deliver on some of the new services successfully. In digital services, creative data, things that are outside of the comfort zone of people within the business. And when it's clicked, when you get everyone pulling together on that same goal, it's certainly, by no means is my challenge completed, but certainly it's becoming easier. And it's that momentum of sort of pushing a big rock. It's very slow at first, and then it starts to pick up speed. And we're coming out of this pandemic, fingers crossed, subject to the rollout plan of vaccines and things. We're coming out with the wind in our sails, and that's just furthering the confidence through. I've had to remain extremely optimistic through the most difficult period of time. To reassure people on a weekly basis in a weekly video that we're going to, commit to them, and we're going to commit to try and find ways to take the business out of tough times. And there's been times where I've been looking at the numbers and thinking, okay, so it's going to be a challenging time for anyone in the marketplace. You have to stick by the decisions you make with the best information you've got at the time, and you have to know that the next week you're going to have to make very similar decisions. And as long as I've got people understand that we're doing it with the vision in mind, then I feel like I've got a lot of probably, I hope, newfound respect from the teams that I hadn't worked with before. And I think hopefully that gives more credibility across that leadership piece, to answer your question, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, amazingly, that was, half an hour. I think that went so quick. That was a really, really interesting conversation. I think it's such a great, business in terms of attracting young people. It's something that, I'm definitely passionate about, and that a lot of people don't do well enough. So it's great to see, younger people in leadership positions, and a business that's passionate about nurturing younger people's careers and setting them on a good path. And as from a business point of view, but also that permeates into keeping, like you say, ahead of the curve. This needs starting where Webmart started, and now it's it's about integrated marketing, and I'm sure you won't be precious about whatever the next thing is, moving on from what you do now.
Absolutely.
So
don't forget, coming up to just before you close, now is the ideal time for companies wanting to go on that journey to attract new talent, fresh talent into the government Kickstarter program, and loads of incentives to do what we've done. And there are loads of really good people looking for jobs, young people in particular. So, I'd stress, to anybody who's watching this, please do look at these programs that the government is doing. So if you've got a bit of reticence about it, it's a very low risk way of getting fresh talent, fresh thinking into your organization in the print industry and beyond. And, you owe it to yourself and to your own company to bring this talent into your organization to future-proof it. And, you've got two great exemplars here of how well it can go. Fast forward a few years, and we are talking a few years. It doesn't have to be 20 years. And you can have these people as the leaders of tomorrow actually working within your organization and giving you a great insurance scheme for your organization to be relevant in the next few years, which is, ultimately, as a leader, what your role is. Absolutely. Well said. Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you, for your time, Tom, Simon, and Richard. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you, all from Webmart UK. This is the Future Print Leaders Summit. There's a lot more great content, but bye from all of us for now.